Yeah.
And we have a super, all our guests are special, but we have a real special guest, not only because of who he is and what he's done for the country, but how busy this man is.
All
You know,
our
Tom,
guests.
Tom Homan is going to be on. He's calling in from his car. And so we're going to have him on talking about the situation with the ICE and the immigration and all that craziness that's going on. The 14,000 murderers, which is a low number. So say something while I text Tom.
Yeah, right. We love all our guests, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're talking about your kids, but this one's our favorite for sure. But you know what? We've actually had some pretty big names, Terry. I think we've had Dr. Jerome Corsi. We've had a FBI whistleblower, a CIA whistleblower. The FBI whistleblower was the guy who blew the lid off of the Uranium One scandal with Hillary Clinton. That guy talked to me for like 3 hours, and I had trouble sleeping that night because he said they tried to kill him like 4 times. One of them was like anthrax or something. Nate Kane.
Yeah.
Nate Kane.
We had
our
new friend Russ, Flight of the West Wind. It's a super cool story. I know he's watching.
A lot of former law enforcement, or federal law enforcement. And then, of course, our most famous before Tom was Robert Malone. That was an interesting one, too.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing?
How are you, sir?
Doing all right, man.
Thank you so much. You're calling in from your car, right?
Yes, I am. I'm working man.
Yeah. So yeah, right. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Are you? I talked to Pastor Dave. Are you headed to the FEMA stuff, or unless I misunderstood his message?
No, I'm in New York giving an event tomorrow in upstate New York, right where the border crossing is up over 800%. I'm doing an event there and speaking to a bunch of
You must
New York Republicans are fed up with it.
I mean, you got to be like super busy, so we appreciate every minute you give us because you're so critical to winning the election and to the future of our country. So I appreciate it. I got Paul on here. I don't even know if you could see us or not. My son,
I can see you. I can see you.
Our producer's gone today for work, and I got my 18-year-old son jumped in here. So we're working through it. So I appreciate you. Appreciate being on. Paul sitting here. So there's so much to talk about, right? This is like a never-ending story. I think I shared with you, we got the Trendle article all over the place, right? Now we're starting to get the focus on Chicago because they're all liberal media here, and they're starting to affect the gang members and stuff here. We know that they said that there's 14,000 murderers that were let in. I think that's way low, and I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And, some of the things that you think are some of the priorities and the reports that came out and talk about the dangers. Even if Trump wins and you're in control and the border's sealed, the cancer's already here, right? And you're going to, I don't know how you guys are going to try to accomplish, even if you had an open card to say, hey, do whatever you want, Mr. Homan. It's going to take a lot of time and effort and work. So I'd love to hear, a little bit about that or anything else you want to talk about.
Well, it's going to be, I told President Trump, it's a decade worth of work, what they've done in the last 4 years. It's over 10 million encounters, and that's not even counting the two plus million gotaways. And these people don't want to be found. They're tough to find, but we're good at what we do. So we can secure the border, and I told the president we can get it done in 90 days, maybe 120 outside at the maximum. But we'll secure the border first, and stop the bleed, right? So we rather than bailing water out of the boat, let's plug the hole in the boat first. Then we start bailing the water. So let's secure the border and start deporting those that are already here illegally.
Yeah.
And of course, and I say that, but we won't start the deportation operation right away. But a lot of focus has to be on the border. We got to stop. We got plenty to go get, so we got to stop letting more in.
Right.
So, and we're going, and just like President Trump during his first administration when I ran ICE, it'll be the same thing. We'll prioritize those with criminal histories and those that are national security. That's because we have to, because that's the biggest concern of this country. But I've said it 1,000 times. I take a lot of hate for it, and I'll say it again. No one's off the table. If you're in this country illegally, you better be looking over your shoulder because we're going to be looking for you.
Yeah. Mr. Homan, Paul Drebick here. Thanks for joining us, and good to talk to you again. So you mentioned shutting down the border, and a a lot of people wonder what the incentives here are for for the administration, because what I think I've heard you make clear before is in your testimony to Congress that you so bravely gave was that there doesn't need to be intervention from Congress on this. The power is with the administration. Is there how much are the cartels involved in this, and what is there a future where we're going to have to do something about the cartel situation, because it's seemingly is that our borders controlled by the cartels? I mean, don't you have to cut the head off the snake, and is that something that maybe a future Trump organization is considering?
Well, first of all, it takes executive action to secure the border because Congress has refused to legislate laws to secure the border. They've failed for, I've been in the game for 34 years. They failed for over 3 decades on passing legislation that would secure the border. Now, I would much rather have Congress, pass legislation to secure the border. That way, every time a new president hits the White House, they don't issue new executive orders.
Right.
Like this, let's kill all these executive orders from Trump and open the border up. If Congress actually would do their job and take border security serious, they would have a permanent fix. And all they got to do is change 3 laws, and you secure 85% of the border. But they just don't want to do it. So yeah, it takes a strong president to issue executive orders. And President Trump's going to do that. He's going to he'll restart the Remain in Mexico, the third safe country agreement, to continue to build the wall. And most importantly, end catch and release. No one's going to be called at the border and released. They will be either held in detention or immediately removed. And that's a game changer in itself. But, you're right. The criminal cartels in Mexico, they're making more money than they've ever made because they're moving record amounts of illegal aliens. They're moving a record amount of sex trafficking on women and children. And they're moving a record amount of drugs in the country. Why? Because the border's wide open. A majority of Border Patrol agents are no longer on patrol. They're changing diapers, making baby formula, taking care of this humanitarian crisis, and the cartels create gaps. So they know that about 70% of agents are off the line at any given time. So they'll shove a group of 100 family units to a certain area, and whatever's left on the border will go to that incident, deal with that humanitarian crisis. When they do that, they create gaps. So that's when the bad guys. That's when they move the drugs. That's when they sex trafficking women and children. That's when they're going to move people from terrorist countries, because the Border Patrol's not on patrol because they're too busy dealing with this immigration crisis. But President Trump he's got it right. The same thing I said at my speech at the RNC. President Trump's president. He would designate the criminal cartels in Mexico as terrorist organizations. Why would he do that? Because they've killed more Americans.
Right.
Every single terrorist organization in the world combined. Right. I mean, they've already killed over 250,000 Americans just for fentanyl. So he's going to designate them a terrorist organization, and he's going to wipe them off the face of the earth. And Mexico's certainly not going to help. They don't want to fix it. And because, a large part of the Mexican government, a large part of the Mexican military, and the Mexican law enforcement, not all of them, but a major part of them are corrupt. So they're on the gravy train. But when President Trump's in the office, Mexico, if they don't want to help, then get the hell out of the way, because President Trump's going to take these cartels out. It's going to take our special operations. It's going to take our IC and intelligence community, along with special operators. But he'll take them out, just like it took out Soleimani. He'll take out the cartels.
Right. Well, it seems to me like, I love when President Trump talks about that, because it seems to me like instead of wasting all the Americans' money in Ukraine and Israel, that would be a much better place to spend money for military operations to get, go after these criminal cartels, like you said, are terrorist organizations. So, hey, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we talked to, what was the name of that gentleman that was a special agent who was...
Oh, Russ.
Yeah, Russ Piatente. And,
Flight of the West Wind.
Flight of the...
West Wind.
West Wind. He has
agent.
a book, and I think he said he knew...
No, he got a picture.
Okay. Yeah. But he was a former federal agent, and we've talked to CIA whistleblowers, we talked to FBI whistleblowers, and, feel free to not answer this question, but I'm wondering what your take is on what the intelligence agency's involvement in this catastrophe is, because, a lot of people are aware of the crack cocaine epidemic in the 1980s and the CIA smuggling drugs for black operations, Iran Contra with weapons running, things of this nature. So I guess my question is, in a general sense, if you're able to comment on that, how much of a problem do you think that the intelligence agencies acting corruptly are contributing to this catastrophe at the border?
What?
You know, I know
Is it
some
working?
things, but I got a top secret security clearance. I can't discuss them on this
Sure,
platform.
sure.
But I can tell you this: when Trump's back in the White House, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people held accountable. I mean, I just leave it at that.
That's
Yeah.
that. Thanks for sharing that. At least I totally understand that you know you're kind of limited in that space, but you know I would say that there's a lot of Americans that are aware of some of those situations, and
Well,
you
look,
know,
it's just not the IC. The United Nations. They're up to their ass in this problem, right?
Yeah, they
right,
are.
They're
right.
funding. They're funding a large portion of this.
Yep.
You got the Chamber of Commerce. They want this low level, the cheap labor, right? Even though it
Yep,
drives
yep,
salaries off your citizens, and
yep.
you got the NGOs.
The NGOs,
You got
yeah.
Catholic Social Services.
Catholic
I'm a
charities,
Catholic, born and raised a Catholic,
right?
and the
Yep.
Catholic Church is making billions of dollars off this.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And again, a lot of corruption going on, which will be addressed during the Trump administration.
Yeah, Terry and I did some reporting with Gateway Pundit and Jim Hoft on the Catholic Charities issue.
Yeah, they were putting 55 a day in an apartment at one point in time, and we don't even have money for what's going on with the hurricane and stuff now for our own people, and it's just absurd. And it's about the 14,000 murderers that they just came out with that statement. Do you not believe that how could that number be accurate? And if it is, it's got to be like 50% low at minimum, because these people don't even. I mean, how do they know? If they know there's 14,000, right? There's got to be more than
Because these are people they've encountered and released, so they have records on them.
Yeah.
But what they can't tell you is how many have been released that cleared vetting. Look, we've seen it 1,000 times just in this past year. When someone's arrested at the border and they like secretary says, well, everybody's fully vetted. What he doesn't tell people is how are they vetted. Well, I'll tell you how they're vetted. We don't have access to El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. We don't have access to the criminal databases in countries like China and Turkey and Russia. You think they're going to share that with us? Of course they're not. So when they vet them against terrorist databases. The most terrorists in this world, they're not in any database. Unless you're a part of a T3 investigation, unless you're encountered on a battlefield by DOD and had a retina scan done, or unless they were caught on a chatterbox, we don't know who most terrorists are. And so, many terrorists in this country came across that border and they'll pass vetting because there's no record of them. But on the other vetting, on the criminal vetting, we don't have access to criminal data from other countries. So when they say they vet them, they bet them against NCIC and III, which is our systems.
Mm-hmm.
NCIC being the federal system, III is the state systems. And they'll run them. So unless they've been arrested either by law enforcement or immigration in this country, they're going to come back clean. And we've seen numerous examples of people being released by this government where they're later investigated and found out they arrested one guy. I arrested one guy last month. I remember reading it. And I called up the ICE field office director and verified it. They arrested somebody that was entered the country illegally, was released after thoroughly vetting him. He was wanted for over 20 murders in his own country.
Oh, wow.
And he passed vetting. So look, remember the 8 terrorists that were arrested, in New York, L.A., and Philadelphia. They were all released. They were all vetted, and they caught them on chatter talking about planning a Russian-type terrorist event here in the country.
Yeah.
So vetting is not foolproof. Matter of fact, it's extremely weak. So you talk about 14,000, that's what they know and they can verify. But there are many more that they can't verify.
Yeah, right before we jumped on, a New York Post came out with a story, and it says high-risk immigrants are getting in with, this is to your point, no proper ID. They're being trusted to provide their own ID, and they're allowed to fly without proper ID or any IDs, which is...
Well, look, that's been going on for a while. Like, I've been down the border the last 3.5 years, I've probably been on the board at least 20 times, and right on the fence line, you'll find thousands of passports, 1000s of IDs from various countries. I mean, one time I stood there within a quarter-mile stretch. I found IDs from over 30 countries, and so they dumped their IDs. So again, unless they've been arrested here before, and there's a fingerprint in the database, they can make up any name they want. And the sad thing is, that's the name we have to take because we have no evidence to prove otherwise. So, and then they release them. So I don't really know who they are. They gave us name, gave me a name of Tom Homan. We release them. Then they're getting on airplanes with a document that we supplied them with that name they made up, and they go through screening. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm glad it's all getting out, but a little too late. What
about the kids too? I mean, we have no idea, if any of these kids are, actually with parents or anything like that.
No, they stopped DNA testing. Once under Trump, we did DNA tests to make sure it was a family unit. This administration stopped it. And not only that, the vetting, before they release these kids, under Trump administration, we would, before we ended catch and release, there's some family units we couldn't detain at the time because of court rulings. But when we released a kid to a sponsor, we made sure that that sponsor was thoroughly vetted against every U.S. database we had, plus anybody else that lived in that household got vetted. Plus, we did DNA tests to make sure they were a family member.
So a couple questions on that. Number one, why can you? I mean, you did this for 35 years. Can you give a good reason why they would stop DNA? I mean, that's just, people hear this type of stuff and it's like gaslighting to them, and it seems like, and on its face, it seems nefarious. Is it just cutting costs, or
they don't care?
No, it's not cutting costs. It's cutting time in detention, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So their main focus, the only thing they've done last 3.5 years was instruct Border Patrol to process quicker, release quicker, because there's no overcrowding, and we can claim everything's under control. That day when Fox News had a drone under a bridge that showed 5,000 Haitians on that bridge, that's a bad day for the administration. Yeah. So all the focus is on now. All they don't care about the crisis itself. They care about the optics. So if they process quick, release quick, there's no overcrowding, then they can keep saying, look at this. There's no overcrowding. There's no surge at the border. Things are under control. That's what it's about. It's about optics and lying to the American people. So, and look, the Secretary of HHS, Becerra, used to be the AG of California, he was bragging. I watched him give a speech a couple months ago bragging how quick they release kids from their custody to sponsors. Well, no kidding, because you're not doing DNA testing, you're not doing proper criminal investigations and sponsors, and because you don't want them in custody because overcrowding of children is even worse. So this administration is all about trying to fool the American people on the optics.
How many kids are getting victimized?
Yeah, we have the FOIAs from the Pilsen Center with human sex trafficking. The Chicago cops are against this stuff big time, right? So then they got the Vortex phone. Are you familiar with the Vortex phone that they're using? And then so they mentioned the Vortex phone. And then they mention how they're using WhatsApp, and they're mentioning the photos and sexual stuff in there and how they're posting to this website. But they don't know, like, even when that phone's given to a Venezuelan, they don't know who that person really is. They find the phone. It's not like they're going to track it back through an ID and then find out who that person is. So we're basically funding their shelter, their transportation, their phones, to use them to commit crimes against us. And,
absolutely true. I mean, this administration is complicit in alien smuggling. Look, they're delivering kids to the very people that paid to have them smuggled to the United States. That's a felony. Yeah. And we're going to use we're going to use taxpayers' money to deliver these children to the very people who paid to have them smuggled. Again, which is a felony, but we're doing it. And all I can say is it sickens me. They've already lost track. 148,000 children they released to sponsors. They can't find the sponsor or the child. God help these children. Jeez. Then they got over 300 children that they never issued court documents, so we don't know where the hell they're at. So they want to keep beating on President Trump about family separation, where 2,500 families were separated. Well, they had to be separated because the parents would go to U.S. Marshals. The children can't go to jail with them. Then that happens to U.S. families every day across this country, hundreds of times.
Right.
I've seen. But under this administration, they want to talk about 2,500 separation under Trump. Meanwhile, they can't find 148,000 children. They released the sponsors. They can't find the sponsor or the child. And based on my 3.5 decades of investigative work, I can tell you right now, many of these children are forced labor. As a matter of fact, ICE HSI has got at least 6 cases where some of these children were found in meatpacking plants at the midnight shift cleaning up entrails. They found other children in forced labor. They found children in forced sex trafficking.
Yeah.
So this administration's got no room to talk about humanity.
Yeah, so Tom, pray to God you guys win, right? And you guys will immediately seal the border and go back to everything immediately, right? That's going to happen. And I'm hoping you're going to stop allowing them to have the funds that are being given to these people, right, to fund them. And here, my concern is, so, there's gangs and criminal, tons of them that are here for, like the Trent Larga and all the other gangs, right? They're here. And, in my view, there's some asylum seekers and families that came with the father. They all had to pay coyotes, right? And my concern is that, like in Chicago, right, you're going to have all these families that, even though they're legit, supposedly asylum seekers, I don't think we should take any in until we could take care of our own. That's a whole different subject. But so they owe the coyotes, right? I could tell me if you think this could possibly happen. Could they engage these Trent Largo guys to basically be their collectors, to go to these husbands and say, hey, buddy, they're basically enslaved. You got to work. You owe me money. And if you don't do what I ask you to do, if you don't drive to the border to pick up a package and use them as mules for other types of crimes, even those individuals who came over here with a good intent might be sucked into doing something wrong because they owe the coyotes. Is that something you think could be realistic, or am I
Oh yeah, I mean that happens. That's happened all throughout my career. I mean, if you owe these cartels money, they own you, and not only they'll make you do something because you owe them money, and they want you to pay off that fee. Mm-hmm. They'll do something because they know where your family's at. Mm-hmm. The MS-13. One of the biggest things MS-13 does is, I know your family lives in El Salvador. And you're going to do what we tell you to do. We'll go cut their heads off, and they will. So it's not just threats of violence, it's because they owe them money, but they also have threats of violence. Yeah, these people don't realize when they hire a criminal cartel to smuggle in the United States, that many times they're going to own you for years.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom, we talked about the terrorist issue, and Terry and I actually had reported on that as well. And that there are known terrorists coming across the border. Recently, I've seen, a few different, maybe I think Matt Gaetz mentioned something, and the concern is that there are terror cells built up all around the country, and that, America's enemies, Iran's been mentioned many times. They're still sore about the Soleimani thing. In your opinion, how realistic is an October 7th type of situation in the U.S.?
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah,
I'm convinced.
So you think it's actually imminent?
Border Patrol's arrested people from 180 different countries. Jeez, and some of these countries are sponsors of terror. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the latest number right now is just under 400 people on the terrorist watch list have been arrested just on the southwest border under this administration, twice as many of that on the northern border. So, we got 2.2 million gotaways. Now, you got to think about, why did 2.2 million people pay more to get away? Because you pay the cartels a certain amount of money to get to the border. The cartel job ends. You get them to the border, they turn themselves into a green uniform, the cartel job's finished. However, if you want to enter the United States and not get arrested and not get vetted and not get fingerprinted and get to Chicago or LA or some other city, you got to pay a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself, why did 2.2 million people pay more to get away? Why didn't they pay less, turn themselves in, get released within 24 hours, get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 square meals a day, get free medical attention, and get work authorization within 60, 90 days? Why would people pay more to not take advantage of that giveaway program? Well, it's easy. They don't want to be fingerprinted. They don't want to be vetted. Yeah. And I'll add this to it. After 9/11, I was in D.C. We created all these different databases and programs to try to prevent another 9/11. Try to prevent someone from getting a visa, coming here, getting a plane ticket, coming here and doing us harm. So we
all
created
that's gone. All that work was for nothing, huh?
It's not for nothing, but we got TSA screening database, right? The no-fly list. We got the FBI screening database. We got the DoD intel database. We got the visa security program where, I was running that at ICE. And we prevented thousands of people from getting a visa when we found out there's derogatory information in their background.
Mm-hmm.
However, what terrorist today is going to put himself in a position to ask for a visa or a plane ticket and be vetted when he can simply go to Mexico, pay the cartels a little bit extra money, and get away. That way, there's no record of him. So, yeah, something's coming. Right? People ask me all the time, you can't prove that. How many terrorists do you know have entered this country illegally? I said, if you think it's zero, then you're a moron.
Yeah.
I said, because everything I just told you. But I don't know how many terrorists have gotten to this country, but I know there's cells here.
Oh.
And I talk to a lot of people in the intelligence community. I know there are cells here. And look, they just arrested 8 2 months ago planning a terrorist operation.
I wrote
but luckily we caught them on chatter.
I wrote a gateway punt story where they arrested terrorists in New York.
When you talk about 2.2 million gotaways, right? I mean, I'm assuming, I'm guessing that number's low too, because there's going to be gotaways that you don't know got away, right? I mean, when you
there's the unknown gotaways could even be higher. There are certain parts of the border, like the Big Bend sector in Texas, is a very treacherous landscape, and there is no technology there. We don't have any drones there. We don't have any sensors or cameras, and so 500 people come through the Big Bend sector a day, we wouldn't know it. So what we know is, though, 2.2 known gotaways based on camera traffic, drone traffic, or sensor traffic, where there's actual recording of someone crossing the border and not being apprehended. So, yeah, the number 2.2 is extremely low because there's going to be unknown gotaways we have no way of tracking.
Yeah, they probably pay more money to be a unknown gotaway than just a gotaway, so that you won't know who they are. There was a gotaways.
Well, I can imagine if they're crossing treacherous land, they're taking a big chance, and there's a reason for that, and it's not good for America.
And we got, let's not forget maritime. We got boats landing in California and Florida.
I saw that, yeah.
Georgia and South Carolina all the time. There are gotaways that are not counted.
Yeah, I've seen those videos of them landing boats on San Diego beaches and just running into the city.
So you've been on the campaign trail, right? Do you feel the energy and the frustration? I think what your ability and what you're going to do and what Trump says he wants to do and what you're going to do for him is going to be one of the biggest factors to help us win this election. Do you think that's true? And are you sensing that when you're going to these different rallies?
Yeah, I think people are fed up. People are now starting to see the truth. And I think people, they've had it, right? We have over 10 million encounters on the southern border that we know of. Plus 2 million, that's 12 million. Added to that, the other 20 million is already here. I mean, we already see it. They're committing crimes. They're overburdening our hospitals and our schools, and people have had it. And migrant crimes all over the country. And I promised President Trump he comes back, I come back. I also promised him that I would be in charge of the deportation operation. I did it for 3 decades. Washington Post did a story on me, I don't know, 4 years ago. And the first line, it was a hit piece. The first line of the story was Tom Homan deports people and is really good at it. You're damn right I am.
Yeah.
So wait till January 2025, see what I can do.
What would be great is if you could cross-train those 85,000 IRS agents to be border agents. Just transfer them over.
If I have my word, we'll bring back retired agents, retired Border Patrol agents, retired ICE agents, get DOD to do a lot of the work, not arrest people, but, do the infrastructure, the transportation, stuff that don't require a badge. But, President Trump is going to win because we got to save this country. And look at the damage they've done on the border in the last 3.5 years. Can you imagine 4 more years?
We're done.
No, I mean, this country will be over.
We'll never be able to fix it. It's now or never.
We're going to have to move to Venezuela.
So you have been on the campaign trail with President Trump, and I know that, obviously you're pretty close to President Trump. You've worked with him in the past. Just from the human perspective, I'm curious. This is pretty unprecedented time in history. He's a pretty unprecedented individual. He's taken on a mammoth challenge here. Can you give us your perspective on what kind of leader President Trump is from your view, being so close to him?
I think he's the greatest president of my lifetime. I've had hundreds of conversations with him in private in the Oval Office, on Air Force One, at Mar-a-Lago. at my ICE office. I mean, he really truly loves his country. And look, he's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And if America wants your next president to be perfect, then you better wait for the second coming of Jesus. Because I've never met a perfect man in my life.
Mm-hmm.
However, his success on the border is unprecedented. His success on the economy, unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
He rebuilt the DOD and the military, and he rebuilt the VA, and he did so much for this country. And look, again, yeah, says some things sometimes I don't like either. But you know what? Put the mean tweets aside, and you just ask people, look, okay, so he's not a perfect man, but were you better 4 years ago than you are now? Better off, of course. If you're honest, you got to answer yes, right?
Yeah.
Was the country running better? And look, did other nations fear us? Were we the most powerful, lethal military in the world? Yes. People didn't pull the crap they're pulling now, but they see a weak administration and taking advantage, whether it's China, Russia, North Korea, whatever. We need a strong president who puts America first. And you mentioned a few minutes ago, we can't take care of these Americans that are dying in, North Carolina and Georgia in this horrific storm because FEMA has no money. They've been putting aliens in hotel rooms at $500 a night, giving them 3 free meals a day and free medical care, giving them cash cards with thousands of dollars on it. But we can't take care of American taxpayers who've been paying taxes their whole life, and now in the position need the government to step up and help them. And we can't help them. We got no money.
Yeah.
Well, we got plenty of money. Kick these aliens out of the hotel rooms across the country. Save yourself $500 times thousands, and we got money to save these people. Stop giving them cash cards, and stop catch and release.
Yep.
This administration can fix the border tomorrow. If Joe Biden called me and said, "Will you help me fix the border?" We can fix it. We can fix it in 60 days. We know how to fix it. We proved it, but they don't want to fix it.
No.
This isn't mismanagement. This isn't incompetence. What they did to this border is by design and is on purpose because they perceive some sort of future political benefit from opening the border up and bringing millions of people in this country.
Yeah. You know what I tell people, because I grew up southwest side of Chicago, Democratic, by where you were at that event, and, voting for Trump. I said the first time I voted for Trump is not because of who he is. It was because of who he wasn't, right? Because of who he wasn't. The second time I voted for Donald Trump is because of who he is and what he's done for our country. So, overlooking those stupid tweets and all that other stuff. So say Trump wins and you're in charge, right? And he goes, "Hey, Tom, all right, go at it. What would be, if you could share, what would be the top first 3 things that you would like to do from day one, and you got a green light to do whatever the heck Tom Homan wants to do?"
Put the Remain in Mexico program back in day one. Put the third safe country agreements in day one. And catch and release day one. Those 3 things will take 85% of your problem away from the border.
Right. And it doesn't take a big act of Congress, does it, for that?
No, the president can do it. Now, of course, Mexico's got to participate, but if you have a strong president, tell Mexico like you did the last time, you're going to do it.
Right.
You're going to do it. We're going to tariff you in billions of dollars.
Yeah, right.
And if that don't work, I'll shut down every port of entry on the southwest border. Mexico needs us more than we need them.
Right.
When I came in the border in 1984, that was right after the murder of Kiki Camarena, a DEA agent who was tortured and murdered by the criminal cartels of Mexico. And President Reagan said, "You know what? You need to turn that guy over to us." Of course, Mexico's dragging their feet. Hey, we don't know who this guy is. Guess what? President Reagan shut down a port of entry. So it took days, and all of a sudden we had this guy in the United States facing trial. So look, you need a strong president. If we can shut down port of entry for one dead agent, which was the right thing to do, we can certainly shut down port of entries for 250,000 Americans who've been poisoned by fentanyl coming across that border.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to send Kamala Harris with $1 billion to Venezuela and hand that out to stop the invasion. I'm being sarcastic.
We'll send Kamala Harris as a subpoena come and testify at the hearing on what she did to this country.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, the tariff thing is a good weapon, and if anybody hasn't seen the Dave Ramsey interview, Trump does a good job explaining how that works.
You close them out so you can tell.
Yeah, I would just say, well, I appreciate everything you're doing, everything you've done, your service to this country, Mr. Homan, and keep up the good work. And God willing, Trump will be back in office, and we can have you fix our problem for us.
Yeah, I hope you get in, man.
Count on it. If Trump wins, I'll be on his heels walking the White House. I'll take a hell of a pay cut, but you know what? I told Trump, I'm so pissed off, I'll come back for free. So watch out.
Thank God. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for your time.
Bye. It was good. You know, we're so lucky because he's so busy right now.
Yeah,
I mean, this is like every day, every hour counts for this. You know, we're fighting for the country to win. And if these guys lose, we're screwed, right? All this shit that we're talking about on the show.
It's getting down to brass tacks, man. We got like 30 days or 32 days or something like that. It's coming fast.
So Russ, I know you're watching. We mentioned your name, buddy.
Yeah.
And then you heard him say that he'll hire the ex guys back. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Help them out.
Right. There you go. So
well, they're gonna have to get rid of a lot of these damn bureaucrats who are just corrupt and hurting. You know, helping the problem.
So let's see. I'll bring up one subject, then you can talk about another one. We'll be done. So I don't know if any of you folks saw the interaction at the Holiday Inn with me and Ben.
Yeah.
The Holiday Inn 71st Street. If you have it, it's on. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Anthony.
let's play the video.
Anthony, put on that video. So we apologize for the first black screen. My son is. Oh my God, that was racist. I said black screen. Apologize for the black screen.
What?
I'm just being sarcastic.
Color?
We know we got libtards watching us.
We could have put the rainbow rhino up there.
And so my son is helping us out. He jumped in here. He's done it once before. Yeah, show that video. So Ben and I, Ben Berkelman and I went to 73rd and Cicero, for those of you from the southwest side of Chicago. And we went there before the DNC, knowing they're going to put him there. Mm-hmm. And now we got there, and there's Haitians. And
what is that?
Want to go to the bank? All right, so let me finish then. Yeah. So there's, we got there. They got the NGOs, New Life Center. New Life Center.
That was the Obama-connected NGO.
Paul wrote a story about that. We found their ID badges on their dashboard, and Ben had a picture of that. So these are the NGO guys. Then you got the Garda security guard scumbags that are at all the centers. You know, one of them hit my camera phone and my hat at another center, and then they were getting aggressive here. Even the New York Post reporter said they're more aggressive here than Chicago. It must be a Chicago bullshit thing they're telling them, right? Yeah. So we have a bunch of videos, but here's just one clip of Ben and I kind of messing with these scumbags, and they did push Ben. They did grab his phone. They did push me. So we'll show you that, and if you want to see the rest of it, go to our Twitter account.
I don't know which Chrome link it's on right now. I think it's on this one. No, you're good. Just expand it. Expand it. There you go, and play.
What is
it's
that?
Not federal
wait.
property.
What does that mean? It's federal property.
Why y'all just can't go home good night?
Don't touch me.
You're touching me.
You push.
Get out of my way, boy.
You pushed me first.
No, you
Jordan.
did.
It's on camera. You
No,
pushed
no,
me
did.
first.
He's been violent with the other officer.
You all just go ahead. You all just go ahead. You all just go ahead.
No, look, I don't want to cause any problems with you guys. I think
No
it's
problem
interesting.
because this is no longer open to the public. You all can find another hotel.
So this is a federal building.
Federal property.
This is federal property is what you're saying.
Can we just confirm that?
It's federal property. You're
now?
saying it's federal property.
So do you work for the federal government? Or are you with the city of Chicago? How much are you guys making, by the way? I heard minimum's about $160,000.
See the metal detector in there?
This doesn't look closed.
No, it's definitely not closed. Only to American citizens.
Excuse me, I've asked you to exit our property. Would you please get off the property as of now?
But this is a Holiday Inn, isn't it?
You are trespassing. You have
On a
been
Holiday
told-
Inn.
You are a
I'm
trespasser.
back. Yeah.
You know that guy?
That was just before you were here the week before.
Oh, okay.
I got his facial recognition. I know
Is that fat old dingo?
Is he part of the organization?
He's a
So can
NGO.
you guys just say, I was told you guys make about 160,000, is that right? About 160,000 through emergency management? There's no sign saying you can't come in.
No, there's no federal signs.
I mean, if this is not open to the public, you would think you guys would have some signage. There's nothing that says I can't come in here. But this is what you got, guys. This is what you got. Your tax dollars hard at work. Your tax dollars hard at work. Please don't touch me.
Wait.
Please
You're not
get off
supposed to
my
touch
property.
it. You
It's
can't
not your
touch
property.
them.
Yes, we have.
Police
asked
can't
you
even
and
touch
this
it.
I know, but it's not your property.
Sir,
It doesn't give you the right to
please
touch.
leave the property, sir. Please.
That's how you
Please.
roll.
when the police come
Please, right now.
When the police come.
Okay. But right now, I'm asking you gotta get down.
So what do you think about illegally being brought into our country? And you guys are protecting
them.
Is it worth the money you're getting paid?
He's
We're gonna try to get a table at the restaurant.
like he's gonna do something.
So there's a nice restaurant over on this side as well.
Oh, there he is.
How's everybody?
Speak to him in Spanish.
No, I guess no restaurant.
Wait,
are
this is
feed
under
them in there. Look at
construction.
that. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God, they got their own little private restaurant in here.
Who are these people? I don't know.
They're NGO folks, all of them.
Very interesting.
Unreal.
So there you go.
I missed when he was pushing you. The kid, I didn't have my camera on when he was
Yeah,
pushing you.
yeah.
And I was going in the window and he's like, it's nudging me and I nudge him back and he's like, oh.
All right, so
Oh,
they
there
get
you
to
go.
go in.
There's a
Not
couple
American
going in right
citizens.
there. Yeah. Good job getting that.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to
Oh
America.
my God,
Hey,
dude.
we're paying for it. You're paying for it, guys. So brand new holiday,
So-
and we were here when it wasn't open yet, and
Yeah.
now it's open. Now it's full of illegals, and we tried to go in. I'm traveling down to Cincinnati.
You know, I just got to say how much you got us back.
Put us back up, Ant.
Yeah.
You got us?
I mean, great work by you and Ben there. But I just got to say how much that pisses me off when I know that there are homeless veterans on the street and I'm watching non-American citizens or non-citizens in America get free room and board at a Holiday Inn, which they say is federal property. It's got a Holiday Inn sign on it. Who do the federal property just confiscate the Holiday Inn? Like, what? But again, like, as a veteran, like, just to know that there are homeless veterans all over the country, that there are veterans all over the country killing themselves like 40 a day, whatever it is, and then to watch that garbage, you know, that's. I mean, we don't live in America anymore. That's not America. That's not a free country. You know, they're stealing our money and they're paying for non-citizens to stay in Holiday Inns while their own citizens are dying on the street. There's no way to justify that. There's no way to justify that. It's a tragedy.
Yeah. What else we didn't have in that clip? There's more to it. Ben has it. When we first walk up, that chubby African American lady was saying that it's closed for remodeling. I don't think we had. She said it was closed for remodeling. He's like, well, it looks like it's open.
What do they need a metal detector for?
And
Why
then
is New Life Centers there? We exposed that in the Gateway Pundit story.
So there's also video that Ben has. Again, he kind of put both of ours together. He was filming in that little window in the side, the metal detector, and they got a 6-year-old boy. So they make everybody go through there. And again, these are supposed to be innocent families. And then after they go through the metal detector, even the 6-year-old boy gets wanded. So they're even to that extent. There's so much stuff going on, right, that they have to even go through a metal detector and get wanded.
Well, we just
at
talked to
6-year-old
Tom
kids.
that nobody knows who these people are. At the border, they're taking some name, and then they give. It's like all these people are getting new lives, new identities, because they can say whatever they want at the border. They get a document, and that's what they use to come into this country, and then get jobs and get temporary identification, and get federal assistance, get those Vortex phones, get their Visa cash cards, and fly to different cities. If you remember in one of the stories we did, we uncovered in the email chain between the city of Chicago, New Life Centers, and Catholic Charities, and the state of Illinois, where there was one of them that was trying to go back to Venezuela. And the lady from Catholic Charities had to tell the city of Chicago official, "Oh, we can't do that. Anywhere in the country,
Because they're not being paid for it because they're scumbags.
but anywhere in country," she said, And if all they would have to do was claim that they had a family member in Baltimore, a family member in Seattle, or a family member in Miami, and they get a free plane ticket to go to that place, but not Venezuela, because we don't want anybody going back. I'm staying here.
Yeah, and so after the woman first said that it was closed for construction, right? I mean, she's got to think we're standing right there, and people are going in and out. And then they tried to tell us it's federal property. The guy was telling us it's a federal building.
Probably true.
And I'm like, no, it's not. He goes, at this moment in time, it is.
Yeah.
I go, no. I'm like, no, it's not. And then, so then they called the cops, and we walked over. Me and Ben went to the cops first, and the cops are super cool, and they're like, yeah, our body cams are on. So they're telling us because they're on our side, right?
Yeah.
And then we told him what happened, and he's like, "This ain't federal property." I go, "No, the signs were facing in the parking lot." So the cop walks over and goes, "It's Holiday Inn Express." The sign says Holiday Inn. There's nothing that says it's federal property. No. And the cop told him that. And when he went to the cop to say, "Oh, he pushed him, he assaulted him," the other guy pushed me first, and I gave him a little nudge back. I didn't assault him; he assaulted me, and I moved him from leaning on me. And so then he goes, he goes, well, he assaulted him, and the cop didn't do anything. And then he said, well, they're on our property. He goes, okay, they're not on your property now.
Yeah.
So they didn't do anything.
I mean, what we uncovered in the FOIAs that you got about Catholic Charities in the city of Chicago was that likely what's going on there is Holiday Inn's getting paid by Catholic Charities to house these, but that money is actually coming from the federal government. So, because we also uncovered the fact that the federal government is subsidizing Catholic Charities at the tune of like $1.5 billion a year, something insane.
I got an update for you too. So this building is owned by 3 Indian gentlemen from Houston, Texas, that came from India to the United States.
Interesting.
2005, they got into residential real estate, and then let me say their names. Keep talking. Well, let me look them up.
And then they're franchising Holiday Inns. Yeah, I mean, so we found, I think in the Standard Club situation and a couple others, there was some shady real estate investors who were buying up those properties, and of course, the other things that we had found was that. So in Illinois, they made a law where they made it a human rights violation for landlords to not rent or sell homes to non-citizens, and that was interesting to me. On face value, it's like what like. Obviously, they're bringing in a lot of them, but then when we did further investigations through the FOIAs that Terry did. About Catholic Charities' involvement in this situation, we found out like, oh, I see what's going on here. So the $400 million that the state of Illinois is shelling out to cover all of this stuff is going to pay the rent for these illegals to live in these apartments, and these landlords, of course, are taking the deal. So it's future Section 8, basically, more of it.
The guys that own this Holiday Inn in our neighborhood, my old neighborhood where I grew up, Southwest, LX Group out of Houston, Texas, Jamal Varani, and the 2 brothers, the Patel brothers, TJ Patel,
that's like Johnson
Patel.
over there.
They own it, and we're looking into this. And so I talked to Ben. Ben and I are collaborating on this, and
Nice.
What he said is. And I could understand this definitely happening, right? The cartels are collaborating with businesses in Houston and other areas to help give them money to buy investments and stuff. I'm not saying that's happening. Listen,
yeah.
but
I can see that. I mean,
culturally, I know how some of these businesses operate from the
that
overseas
makes
in
total
India.
sense.
They're all tied into shady deals. Some of these guys culturally, and I could see that happening very easily. to grow their
Absolutely.
business.
Well, again, this is like it's guaranteed money for the property owner.
And then talk
The
about,
federal
Standard
government,
Club and
the federal
all we
government,
found
or the Catholic Charities, whoever's paying that bill, that's guaranteed tenement.
Yeah.
So
Standard Club in Chicago.
oh yeah, the Standard Club is a famous Jewish.
No, but I mean you found the same.
Oh yeah,
they're
they're
2022.
the Standard Club and the Inn of Chicago, right? And what was the other one?
In the Chicago Standard Club.
They were both
The same owner went
both
to jail.
by the same owner from California, some sleazy real estate investor who bought up the properties during COVID, right? And
7
had a
years in
criminal
jail.
background for tax evasion.
Not all
among other
criminals are bad.
things. Yeah, but interesting that he was ahead of the curve on this back during the pandemic and bought up these properties, which, you know, to me, it didn't seem like they had a lot of value because the Standard Club in particular was in a neighborhood that, you know,
It was all planned.
yeah.
All planned.
So it didn't make a lot of sense. And then once this stuff started happening, and it's like, oh, okay, so all of them, those properties are being exclusively inhabited by illegal immigrants. And the only reason we found out about the people that own this is because he did a FOIA for all the police complaints, and then I started researching, you know, well, who owns
For your
this stuff,
story, yeah.
and found that this guy had bought them. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of backdoor stuff going on. There's a lot of investors who think they can make a quick buck, you know,
Yeah.
and make rent, you know, at least if they, because that property he bought, it was for cheap. They've been trying to sell it forever. It lost value, you know. So
You know, they got a fortune from our tax dollars.
Yeah.
So I guess last thing we should talk about is our event coming up October 17th. It's going to be, so those of you that are local to Chicago, listen, October 17th, we're having a Lincoln Trump dinner. Lincoln Trump. And we have 3 really good speakers. We didn't talk about the chief of police of Oak Brook that much, Brian. I mean,
that's a good one.
So we have Chris Adamo, Rules for Defeating Radicals, right? That book was written for what we're living right now and
One of our first
experiencing
guests.
for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? How to Fight Against Radicals.
Yeah.
We have Tana Gortz. She was an apprentice star. She took second, but she was a dynamic force in personality. Trump loved her and brought her in to be a special advisor. She's great personality. She's fun. She's going to make it exciting. She's going to speak. She's also Italian.
She's fun.
And then
1 degree of separation away from President Trump.
Brian, the chief of police of Oak Brook, is going to speak as well. And Brian is going to talk about the illegal invasion. It's not in the inner city. It's everywhere. And he's going to talk about all the Venezuelans that have been coming in and organized shoplifting in Oak Brook Mall. And then just, because I don't know if I said this last week about my neighbor being robbed.
Yeah, you did.
Right down the block.
That's crazy.
You guys got to listen. We got great speakers, and here's some people asking, "What's the money going for?" It's going for 2 things. It's going for the DuPage. What's it? DuPage
Freedom Federation.
Freedom Federation, right? That's a group
Civic
of people
awareness.
from DuPage County. They're getting together and trying to help win elections and recruit, retain, identify, raise money for conservatives, not rhinos. It's code for no rhinos. And then it's also for the behind enemy lines and everything that we're doing in this. I was on with Tom Renz. He's a big what do you call it?
He's a lawyer. He's a
lawfare.
lawyer out of Ohio. He's got a podcast. He's been fighting. He fought a lot during COVID. He fought a lot for election integrity and still is.
So what he does on his show, we had many breaks. He goes, "That's time for my grift." He goes, "Yeah, it's grift, and we got to make money for this, right? So all this stuff costs a lot of money and time, and it's so many different things." And speaking of grift, when he said that, I held my shirt up. I said,
Oh yeah.
So look at this. You got to go fighting behind enemy lines. Kamala Harris, she did that, right? She did that. So we want to remind everybody that she did that. And that's coming into Chicago, into our shelters. And then we also have coffee cups, crime, rape, fentanyl, murder, sex trafficking, tren de agua, coffee mugs and drinking mugs. So, and then we got Bell 1776. Like to sell another
Go get a pillow.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a big sale going
Mr.
on.
My Pillow, yeah.
He's got a big sale. I saw it today. So you guys go to his My Pillow and then
He needs the help. I think he's been sued about.
1776.
I think he's been sued about 17,000 times.
Chuck's Barbecue, October 17th, fighting behind enemy lines. You could buy your tickets there. We could use your help. And if you don't go, buy a damn pillow.
Yeah.
Or coffee cup.
Anybody else want to mention that's speaking? Anybody else that's speaking that you wanted to mention?
I mean, at the other end, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, we have all Republicans in our. Oh, we got Larry Bennick from the Warriors. I'm sorry, Larry.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
From the Warriors. Larry's going to be speaking, and then Aaron Delmar,
Yep. The co-chair of the
co-chair of the
Illinois GOP.
Illinois GOP, and then we got Dean White, and
The
for those of you
Republican
that are
National
local,
Committeeman for Illinois.
if you're not local, you don't give a shit about this, right? So, but just so you know, we're going through big problems in Illinois. Fighting. We got a super majority Democrats. We got a super minority Republicans. We've got infighting between the Illinois GOP and the established, the grassroots. And I got people whining, this guy's not a grassroots. This all this bullshit, right? So we have all grassroots speakers. You might think somebody might not be 100% in line with 1,000% grassroots, and too bad, right?
I just want to. I would just like to point out that and give kudos to you, Terry, for putting this together. I mean, you were the one who came up with this idea, and then you got all these people to be engaged because you've kept a profile on national media. And I guess if I had a message for the people out there that are listening to our podcast, which we appreciate very much, and we thank you for your support. I think we have over 3,000 on YouTube now, subscribers. We've passed the other Behind Enemy Lines show on Rumble.
Yeah.
We're growing slow, but we got a mom and pop operation. We've just done this ourselves. But I guess my message to everybody out there who maybe doesn't have hope and can get down on themselves because of living in Illinois, we're doing this out of a bedroom, and we've been doing it for a year, and we've talked to CIA whistleblowers, FBI whistleblowers. We've talked to multiple authors. We've talked to national media correspondents. We've talked to the inventor of the mRNA technology, Dr. Robert Malone. We talked to Tom Homan. We've thrown a fundraiser for Mike Lindell, sold out.
Founder of Gays Against Groomers.
She's big
now. She took off like crazy.
We've been featured in Gateway Pundit over 20 times. I've started writing for a nationally syndicated publication, and we're having an event where we have people 1 degree away from President Trump coming to speak. We have an author. We have a Republican National Committeeman of Illinois, an Illinois GOP co-chair coming to our event, and the establishment, the official party event that is happening that same night, is having a Democrat speak. He's a great guy. I respect everything he's done, but you can just compare and contrast that. We are a grassroots movement. We are a grassroots movement, and in 1 year, I mean, rewind what I just said and try to process that. You can make a difference. Yeah. I mean, you can make a difference. You just have to have the courage to stand up, and I think that more people are doing that. And I think we need more people like Terry who are going to go out there and spread the word. That's all you got to do, because there are people out there that are just afraid to be called a bigot or racist or a transphobe or whatever the case may be. But we are evidence that it works to push back. And the establishment Republicans in places like Illinois, they actually don't have any power because nobody supports them. And it's because they don't have the courage to stand up and fight for conservative values, or at least just the people that they're supposed to stand up for.
Like we confronted Sean Casten at the library.
That's right.
That was for
That's
us.
That's a great point. None of our politicians or the representatives of the Illinois GOP do anything to stand up to the Democrats and their agenda of sexualizing children. And Terry and I went to that meeting against with Sean Casten, who is a congressman out of Illinois who's supporting this book ban bill, which is actually just a government propaganda.
I thought you were saying a communist.
He is a communist. He is a communist. Yeah. Absolutely. He's given the government more power, and taken power and taken First Amendment protection away from parents. And so Terry and I went to this place and we stood up to him and we engaged him and Representative Ann Stava Murray about this isn't a bill about, book banning and protecting books from being banned. It's a bill about taking away parents' rights and giving the government, the state government of Illinois, the ability to propagandize without any checks and balances. And we were the ones who stood up there, and we were the ones on NTD, standing up for parents and standing up for people who actually have conservative values. And the Illinois GOP didn't do that. So that's just my closing message, Terry.
Yeah,
that
thanks.
There's you can make a difference.
Yeah, we need help.
We do.
Right.
We need a lot of help. So
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry about the little glitch. Thank you, Anthony, for helping.
Thanks,
out here.
Anthony.